Hello YouTube, it is me, MA, and I'm going to do a tag that Rumor Haven posted last night called Seance Circle Spread, which is both a deck tag and a spread. And here's the funny thing, I subscribe to Rumor Haven's channel and nothing ever shows up in my algorithm until yesterday. Luckily this delightful video showed up, which I will link. And if you've watched my channel before, I kind of fly off the cuff with no edits or production value whatsoever. So I will try to get this as right as I can from my notes. Okay, so this is a 10 deck and 10 position spread and tag. The first deck and card is your crystal ball, which is suggested to be a round deck. And this is something you're going to scry into and peer into more depth. Is what's at the center of the spread. So for my round deck, I chose Cedar McLeod's Uncertain Oracle. I think this is very suited to scrying their abstract watercolor images with keyword. And I think Rumer chose the Wild Unknown Archetypes, which definitely I would have considered choosing, but because that was already taken, I think this is a good pick. So I'm going to place that right at the center. The Uncertain Oracle by Cedar McLeod to scry into. Deck in position number 2 is the Candle, suggested to be a shadow work deck, something that casts both light and shadow onto the crystal ball or behind the crystal ball. And my position, as always, is all my decks are shadow work decks. I never know what I'm going to get. I could read the fluffiest deck and come out in full darkness and vice versa, but I'm going to go with the Crow Tarot, mostly because if we're having a seance, I would like there to be crows present. I would like to invite the crows. So I'm just going to pick a card, and that one goes up here to shine on the crystal ball. The next position and deck is the deck of objects. It's within the context of a seance, the personal item that you might hold on to while you're getting the messages or receiving the spirits. And for this, I chose the Witches Objects section of the Literary Witches Tarot, which I trimmed the object cards down to a much smaller size by taking off the borders and titles. Sorry, I should have showed more cards on the Crow Tarot, but I forgot. Yep, so these are the objects we're working with. And this deck, if you are familiar with it, the cards are very, very large. So I've cut them way down. So this is the object that I'm going to hold on to bring the spirit in or to ground me as we're receiving messages during the seance. And this card position goes right here. Deck number 4 is the Invocation or Prayer. I might think of it as the guide I'm going to use to meet whatever spirit is going to come in for this seance, or this could be the archetypal energy that's coming in during the seance. And for this, I chose the Dark Goddess Tarot. This is a deck I use on dark moons. I pull one card as like a guide for the month, so feels like that's a good pick for our spirits or deities to be present at this seance event. And we're going to pull a card and let it go right there. Yay. Deck number 5 is a deck that feels like it was channeled. Something you might associate with spirit writing or spirit images or drawing. And the deck that immediately came to mind for me was the Abstract Futures by Hilma's Ghost. That is how they work. Danielle and Shar collaborate together, and whenever they're in space, they do an invocation, bringing forward into the present and into their work the spirit of especially women artists, abstract female artists and female identified artists who work in the spiritual realm especially. And yeah, that is my pick. As the name implies, this is a very abstract deck. This could have been a scrying deck also, other than that it's not round, but this is my pick for the channeled deck. Whoops. Bunch of cards just flipped over. We're going to pick one and put it right here. So that was deck number 5, the channeling deck that feels channeled. The next deck is Spirit Photography deck. I guess this is kind of like capturing the spirit on camera. And, you know, Rumer talked how the Victorians were messing around the original AI and Photoshop by creating kind of fraudulent, I guess we call it, mystical photography situations by superimposing images. For this, I didn't think I had photography decks, but I have the Tarot of the Drowning World, which is another art deck. And these images were created by floating these objects in like an antique tub of water outdoors and photographing them. Very beautiful. It's a Marseille deck. That is the Spirit Photography deck. And to me, I'm thinking, you know, what does the message from Spirit look like in action? What visual form is it taking? We'll put that right here. Okay, the next deck is the Materialization or Manifestation. What appears in the room, what is in movement, or what realization comes, something sensory and detectable that wasn't there before the seance started. So Rumer suggested to use a haunted deck for this, and I chose the Embroidered Graveyard Tarot. Not tarot, it's an oracle. Apologies. I did pull out, for the purposes of selecting, there's several cards that relate to Wheel of the Year. I removed those for the purposes of drawing a card. If you haven't seen this deck, I consider this a pretty haunted deck, as we are in essentially a graveyard here. So let's see, we're going to pick one for the manifestation that comes to us in the physical realm during this seance, and place this card up here. Okay, deck number 8 is the Poltergeist deck. That can be a little bit of a trickster, a little bit disruptive maybe, gonna mess things up. You don't know what you're gonna get, a little bit uncontrollable, a little wild. I chose the Trionfi Della Luna Illustrated Pips deck because, well, first of all, I mean, that is kind of poltergeisty when you have flaming farts on the cover of your deck. But I never know what I'm going to get or what I'm going to feel from readings with these cards. They are, some of them, very funny, but the way that they hit emotionally and in readings is very unpredictable. You just never know. So that's my Poltergeist deck as I drop all the cards. That's the Poltergeist deck, the Trickster, the tag-along spirit that maybe when you called in the spirit you wanted to meet, some other little imp flew in with it, and now you have to deal with it. So this one goes right here. That is deck and card number 8, the Poltergeist, who's here to shake things up a bit. Deck and card number 9, the Collective Hallucination. Rumer said this, let's think about this deck as the FOMO deck that everybody, you know, had to have and kind of went a little crazy over all at the same time. Rumer picked the Ritual Tarot. I decided to go with the Alleyman. I think this deck is also itself is a collective hallucination of of cards. You really don't know what you're going to get with this. I know some people took this deck and split out and built a 78 card tarot deck and left the rest to the side as oracle. I just leave it all together. So you don't even know who you're going to get. You don't know whose card, what artist, what style. You don't know if you're going to get an oracle or a tarot card or something completely indecipherable. This is also a little bit of a poltergeist deck, but I think the mania of I think this was probably the deck on Kickstarter that the most people ordered of all time. So we're just going to put that. And also, this might be something that's messing with what we were trying to look into in the center. And then the final deck, because we've had a lot going on here, is the closing of the circle of the seance, a parting message, and it was suggested we pick a deck that's a little bit uplifting or like a hug deck. I'm going to go with something that might leave you feeling a little empowered after this shaky experience. I'm going with the Arcane Warrior Tarot by Levi Schmitz, because I don't have a lot of affirmation decks, but this is a tarot deck that includes an affirmation on every card. So I think that might be a good way to close out our seance, to leave you with some agency after these spirits have taken over the room, flown around your head, tipped the table, and the whole thing. So we're going to put one card here. And those are the decks and the positions. I'm going to turn the cards over. Before I do that, I don't know if I'm going to really read them, but I just thought I'd do a reveal anyway and see if anything strikes me about it. So we had our crystal ball at the center. The message we get here is nostalgia. So that's the center of our crystal ball. Then our shadow, our candle card that's casting a shadow, is the Seven of Pentacles. The personal item to hold on to during the seance is a hedgehog. The invocation, or the spirit that is going to be our guide, is Erinyes. I'm not familiar with this entity, the Ten of Air. And I am going to look at the guidebook, because there's usually like a short statement. So, okay, this is the Greek goddess of punishment, and the message is endure it or end it. Interesting. So that, as an introductory guide to our invocation of spirit, might say we're in for some trouble here. The channeling card, the spirit writing card, the message that is coming physically through from the Hilma's Ghost Tarot is the Sun card. So that, to me, everything's on the table, right? But there's nothing that's going to be hidden. The spirit photography card, what the message might look like in life in action, or what apparition might be coming. Oh, wonderful. We got Le Pendu, the Hanged One. So things being possibly quite upended here. Let's see what's next. The Manifestation card. What comes to us in the room. This is the Haunted deck. Something sensory and detectable from the Embroidered Graveyard. We've got the Nourish card. The Poltergeist Trickster that's coming to us from the Trionfi Della Luna deck is the Eight of Cups. The Collective Hallucination card that's coming from the Alley Man is the Queen of something, the Queen of bombs, the queen of radioactive cookie baking. And our parting message from the Arcane Warrior is, I am the explorer of truth. So, wow, these cards are really talking to each other in some interesting ways. Nostalgia and a hedgehog together. This is something a little bit prickly to me, something a little bit difficult and challenging. And the sun and the Hanged One, there's something that needs to be looked at, that you might change your mind about in the realm of nostalgia. Maybe, you know, could be a memory you've been clinging to as a happy memory, that needs some excavation, or something that's been a negative memory. And with the Seven of Pentacles, I'd say it's something that's been held on to for a long time and its meaning has not become clear yet. That there's some difficulty involved with it from this 10. Very interesting that this kind of slightly sinister, you know, fallout shelter housewife image with the cookie bowl and this nourish. So maybe in exploring this nostalgia, going and making some family recipe that evokes like a sense memory of a family member, or a, you know, something from the past. And the Eight of Cups in that trickster thing is interesting, about the leaving things behind. And I think I would question whether that leaving was constructive or not. And maybe if you need to turn around and come back to something, that it feels easier to walk away from, because this Ten of Swords is kind of saying to me that maybe you need to stick out some pain to get to the heart of something. And especially with this closing message, I am the explorer of truth, kind of empowering that excavation, even though it might be kind of challenging. So yeah, wow, that was really fun. Thanks, Rumer. I hope that we see a bunch of VRs to this, and everybody have a good day, and go watch the video that I put in the link. Bye.